Mistaken as the CEO's wife, she froze when he confirmed it in public. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from today? Please drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to the main character. She stands beneath crystal chandeliers, the light sharp enough to make every diamond sparkle, and every mistake impossible to hide. The room smells faintly of polished wood and expensive cologne. Waiters move in smooth lines. Laughter rises and falls like a practiced rhythm. This is not her world. She knows that the moment she steps forward, her heels clicking too loud on marble floors that were never meant for her, she was invited as a last-minute substitute, a favor, a seat filler, someone who was supposed to stand quietly at the edge of the room and disappear when the speeches began. She keeps reminding herself of that as she adjusts the borrowed jacket at her wrists and lifts her chin, hoping confidence can be borrowed too. Across the room, cameras flash. The man everyone came to see has just arrived. He is the CEO, the billionaire, the name that moves stock prices and silences boardrooms. He walks with calm precision, tailored suit, steady gaze, the kind of presence that tells people exactly where they stand without saying a word. She does not realize she is in danger until a voice rings out behind her. "Sir, may we have a photo of you and your wife?" The word hits her like cold water. Wife. She turns too slowly. She feels every eye in the room shift toward her, curious, calculating, ready to decide who she is worth being. Her mouth opens, instinctively forming the words, "I am not his wife. This is a mistake." But she never gets the chance. The CEO looks at her, not with surprise, not with confusion. He studies her for a single heartbeat, just long enough for her to feel exposed, measured, and somehow seen. Then he smiles, calm and effortless, the kind of smile that makes people lean in. "Yes," he says evenly, "she is my wife." The room freezes. The cameras explode with light, reporters whisper, phones lift into the air. Somewhere behind her, someone gasps. She feels the blood drain from her face. Her hands curl at her sides, nails biting into her palms as if pain might wake her from whatever nightmare this has become. Her mind races. This is not a misunderstanding she can laugh off. This is a declaration, public, irreversible, and coming from a man powerful enough to make it true simply by saying it out loud. She looks at him again, searching his face for a signal, a hint that this is some cruel joke. Instead, she finds something else. Control. Intention. A quiet warning in his eyes that says, "Trust me," or "Do not speak." Applause ripples through the crowd, uncertain at first, then louder, fueled by the thrill of unexpected news. Someone congratulates them. Someone else asks how long they have been married. She hears her name spoken by strangers who suddenly believe they know her. Her heart pounds so hard, she is sure it can be heard over the music. She has no ring, no prepared smile, no story, just a borrowed dress, a borrowed invitation, and now, a borrowed identity that could cost her everything. The CEO gently places a hand at the small of her back. It is light, almost respectful, but the message is clear. Do not run. Not yet. As they face the cameras together, she realizes something terrifying. Whatever this is, it is not over. It is only beginning. She does not remember how long she stands there, smiling for cameras that do not care whether the smile is real. Time stretches, then snaps back into place the moment the CEO guides her away from the crowd. His hand remains at her back as they move through a side corridor, lined with muted gold walls and quiet security guards who pretend not to listen. The door closes behind them. The noise of the gala fades, replaced by a thick, unsettling silence. She exhales sharply, the breath she has been holding since his words echoed across the room. Her voice finally returns, unsteady but controlled. "That was a mistake," she says. "You should have corrected them." He loosens his tie with practiced calm, as if they just stepped out of a routine meeting. "No," he replies. "That would have been the mistake." She turns toward him, disbelief flashing across her face. "You called me your wife, in front of everyone. You do not even know my last name." "I know enough," he says evenly. She laughs once, short and humorless. Enough to ruin my life? He meets her gaze. Enough to save mine. That stops her. He gestures toward the door, toward the world they just left behind. If I had denied it, the headlines would have written themselves. Questions, speculation, weakness. My board would have panicked by morning. Investors do not like uncertainty. She crosses her arms, grounding herself. So you used me as a shield. Yes, he says without hesitation. And you let me. Her jaw tightens. I froze. That is not the same as refusing, he replies quietly. She wants to argue, but the truth settles heavily in her chest. She had frozen. She had stood there while the room decided who she was, and now that decision cannot simply be undone. He steps closer, lowering his voice. If you walk out now and tell them the truth, they will not see honesty. They will see chaos. They will ask who you are, why you were there, what you were trying to gain. She pictures the cameras again, the whispers, the judgment, people with power deciding her motives for her. I was just helping someone, she says softly. I was not supposed to be part of this. I know, he says. That is why I chose you. She looks up sharply. Chose me for what? For control, he answers, and for credibility. The word lands like a weight. He continues, his tone steady, deliberate. Tonight, you cannot deny being my wife. Not yet. Doing so would only make things worse for both of us. Her heartbeat quickens. Then what are you asking me to do? I am asking you to stay, he says, for the rest of the evening. And tomorrow, she asks. Tomorrow, he says, we talk. She shakes her head. I do not belong in your world. He studies her, not unkindly. That may be true, but right now you are standing in it, and the longer you stand alone, the more dangerous it becomes. She realizes then what he is really offering. Not romance, not kindness, protection. What happens if I say no, she asks. He does not answer immediately. When he does, his voice is lower. Then you walk back into that room alone, and the story writes itself without you. Silence stretches between them. She thinks of her job, her fragile stability, how easily everything she has worked for could be questioned, dissected, destroyed by people who will never know her name. Finally, she nods once. I will stay, she says, but only tonight. A faint smile touches his lips. Not triumph, relief. That is all I am asking for, he says. As he opens the door and the noise rushes back in, she feels the weight of what she has agreed to settle over her shoulders. She is still not his wife, but the world now believes she is, and that belief is about to change everything. The car ride away from the gala is quiet, heavy with unspoken questions. City lights slide past the tinted windows as the driver follows a familiar route, one the CEO has taken countless times before. For her, every turn feels like a step deeper into a story she never agreed to tell. She sits straight, hands folded tightly in her lap. The borrowed jacket still smells faintly of someone else's perfume, a reminder that nothing about tonight belongs to her. Across from her, he scrolls through messages on his phone, calm, composed, already managing the fallout of a single sentence spoken in public. You are very good at this, she says suddenly. He looks up. At what? Acting like this was planned. It was not planned, he replies, but it was not accidental either. The car slows as iron gates rise ahead of them. A private residence, guarded, immaculate, the kind of place she has only seen from the outside, usually while passing by quickly, pretending not to stare. When they step inside, the silence is different from the corridor at the gala. This silence is intentional, controlled, the kind that comes from too much space and too few people. He removes his jacket and places it neatly over a chair. She remains standing, unsure where to put herself. Sit, he says, not as an order, but as an invitation. She does. I meant what I said, he begins. Tonight cannot be undone, but it can be managed. She meets his gaze. Managed how? He takes a breath, as if choosing precision over comfort, by turning the misunderstanding into a structure. A lie, she says. A temporary arrangement, he corrects. Her laugh is soft, incredulous. You announced me as your wife. There is nothing temporary about that. There can be, he says, if both of us agree. She waits. I need stability, he continues, not emotionally, publicly. My personal life has become a distraction. The board has been pressing for months. They want certainty. A family man. Someone predictable. And you decided I look predictable? She asks. No, he says honestly. I decided you look real. The words catch her off guard. You did not chase attention tonight. You did not posture. You did not try to benefit from the confusion. You froze. People trust that. She looks away, uncomfortable with being analyzed so openly. I am not asking you to pretend forever, he says. I am asking you to consider a contract. He slides a folder across the table. It is thin, clean, already prepared. She does not touch it. A public marriage, he continues. Limited duration, clear boundaries. You will be protected financially and legally. You will not be expected to love me. You will not be expected to give up your life. She studies his face, searching for mockery. There is none. And if I refuse, she asks, then tomorrow morning I will correct the statement, he says. The media will ask why I lied. They will ask who you are, why you were there. You will be mentioned, speculated about, forgotten perhaps, or remembered for all the wrong reasons. She swallows. You make it sound like a favor. I am offering a solution, he replies. For both of us. Her fingers finally brush the folder. She opens it slowly, reading words that turn her name into a role. Spouse, partner, representation. This is insane, she murmurs. Yes, he agrees, but it is also controlled. She looks up at him again. You are asking me to step into your world and trust that I will not disappear inside it. I am asking you to step into it with rules, he says. Rules that protect you. Silence settles between them once more. She closes the folder. I will not decide tonight, she says firmly. He nods. I would be disappointed if you did. He stands, signaling the end of the conversation. Take the night. Tomorrow we speak again. As she is shown to a guest room larger than her entire apartment, she sits on the edge of the bed, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Hours ago, she was invisible. Now, she is someone's wife in the eyes of the world. And tomorrow, she must decide whether to make the lie official. Morning light filters through tall windows, softer than the glare of last night's chandeliers, but no less exposing. She wakes slowly, disoriented by silk sheets and a ceiling that feels far too high. For a moment, she forgets where she is. Then memory rushes back. The gala, the cameras, his voice saying she was his wife. She sits up, grounding herself. Today is not about shock. Today is about choice. When she enters the study, he is already there. Not in a suit this time, but in a crisp shirt with sleeves rolled back, as if he wants the conversation to feel less ceremonial. A legal folder rests on the table between 2 cups of coffee. He does not touch either. You slept, he says. A little, she replies. Enough to think clearly. That is all I hoped for. She takes the seat across from him. There is no audience now, no pressure of flashing lights, just 2 people facing the consequences of a single sentence spoken too soon. I read the contract, she says. He nods. Then you understand what I am asking. I understand what you are offering, she corrects him, and what you expect in return. He remains silent, allowing her space. You want a public wife, she continues. Appearances, events, statements, but not my feelings. That is correct. And you want boundaries, she adds. Clear lines so neither of us forgets why this exists. Yes. She exhales slowly. Then I want my own conditions. His gaze sharpens, not with irritation but respect. Name them. She opens the folder again, but this time she does not read. She speaks. First, this is not ownership. I do not belong to you. I represent a role. He nods once. Agreed. Second, there will be no shared bedroom, no physical expectations, public appearances only. Agreed. Third, I keep my name, my work, my independence. He answers without hesitation. Agreed. She pauses, then adds quietly, and fourth, when this ends, it ends cleanly. No public blame, no damage to my reputation. He meets her eyes. I will ensure that. Something in her shoulders loosens, not trust, but clarity. He slides a pen toward her. This protects you. She studies the pen as if it weighs more than it should. Signing means stepping forward. Refusing means stepping back into uncertainty. How long? she asks. 6 months, he replies. Enough for the narrative to settle. Enough for the board to be satisfied. And after that? After that, he says, we tell the truth in a way that no one can use against you. She closes her eyes for a brief moment. This is the strangest decision I have ever made, she says. He offers a faint smile. It is not even in my top 10. She opens her eyes, picks up the pen, and signs. The sound of ink on paper feels louder than it should. He signs next. There is no applause, no celebration, just the quiet acknowledgement that something has shifted. Later that day, she stands in a dressing room while a stylist adjusts fabric and posture, teaching her how to move through spaces designed to intimidate. She listens, learns, not because she wants to belong, but because she refuses to be small. That evening, they step into public again, side by side. The cameras return, but this time, she does not freeze. She lifts her chin. She holds his arm, not as a lover, but as an equal participant in a carefully drawn line. To the world, they are married. To each other, they are bound by ink, rules, and an agreement neither of them fully understands yet. And somewhere beneath the performance, something real begins to stir, unnoticed, waiting for its turn. The first weeks pass in a careful rhythm, like a dance both of them pretend not to practice. Mornings begin with polite distance. Evenings end with separate doors closing down a long hallway. To anyone watching from the outside, the marriage looks effortless. To them, it is measured, intentional, and quiet. They appear together at charity luncheons, business dinners, and formal receptions where names are remembered and faces are judged. She learns when to smile and when to remain still. She learns how to listen without shrinking. He watches closely, offering guidance without condescension, correcting others when they speak over her, introducing her not as an accessory, but as a presence. This is my wife, he says often now, calm, certain. Each time, the words feel less like a lie and more like a weight she has learned how to carry. At home, the rules hold. Separate bedrooms, separate lives. But shared spaces slowly begin to soften. They pass each other in the kitchen late at night. They exchange brief conversations over coffee that linger a little longer than necessary. She notices he remembers how she takes her tea. He notices she never interrupts, but always hears what others miss. One evening, after a particularly tense board event, she breaks the silence first. They wanted to test me, she says. He nods. They always do. I did not fail, she adds. No, he says, you did not. The approval in his voice is quiet, but it matters more than applause. Another night, she overhears a phone call meant to be private. His voice is lower, stripped of its public certainty. He speaks about pressure, about expectations, about how little room there is to be human when people invest in an image instead of a person. She does not interrupt. She does not retreat. She simply listens. The next morning, he thanks her without explaining why. The public begins to change its tone. Headlines shift from speculation to admiration. Comments soften. The board relaxes. Invitations multiply. And slowly, without either of them acknowledging it, the arrangement begins to feel less like a performance and more like a partnership. At a formal gala one evening, a guest sneers quietly, assuming she cannot hear. She is clearly temporary, the woman says. These things never last. Before she can respond, he does. She is not temporary, he says, voice steady. She is chosen. The room falls silent. Later, alone in the car, she turns to him. You did not have to say that. I know, he replies. Something shifts between them then. Not romance, not yet, but recognition. At home that night, she lingers at his study door. You crossed a line, she says gently. So did you, he answers, by staying. She considers that, then nods. They return to their separate rooms, but the distance feels different now. Less like protection, more like restraint. In the weeks that follow, they begin to share meals. Not often, not deliberately, but naturally. Conversations drift from logistics to ideas, from schedules to stories. She tells him about her life before the gala. He tells her about the cost of being indispensable. Neither of them says what they are thinking, but both of them feel it. The contract remains in place. The rules still stand. Yet, beneath the structure, something unplanned begins to form. Respect becomes familiarity. Familiarity becomes trust. And trust quietly waits for the moment it will demand more than ink and signatures. For now, they continue as agreed, fake in name, careful in action, and dangerously close to something real. The test comes without warning. It arrives on a night designed to celebrate success, wrapped in black ties and soft music, where smiles are sharpened and every word is weighed. Another gala. Another room full of people who believe they understand power simply because they are allowed to stand near it. She senses it the moment they step inside. The greetings feel different. The questions linger longer. Eyes follow her movements, not with curiosity this time, but evaluation. This is no longer about whether she belongs at his side. It is about whether she can survive there. They separate briefly, as they often do at events like this. He is pulled into a conversation with major investors. She is left among board members' spouses and executives who smile too tightly. "So," a man says, swirling his drink, "what exactly do you do?" She recognizes the tone. It is not a question, it is a challenge. "I work," she replies evenly. There is a pause, a few glances exchanged. "Yes, but before," another woman adds, leaning in, "before all of this. Before him, before the ring, before the name." She feels the familiar urge to deflect, to make herself smaller, to apologize for existing in a space she was never invited into, but she does not. "I built my life without shortcuts," she says calmly, "and I continue to do so now." The silence that follows is uncomfortable. Good. Moments later, the real test arrives. A senior board member approaches her directly, no smile this time. "We have been meaning to speak with you," he says. "Your presence has certainly changed the narrative around the company." She inclines her head. "That was not my intention." "Nevertheless," he continues, "some are concerned you are a distraction." She does not look toward her husband. She does not search for rescue. "A distraction from what?" she asks. "From discipline," the man replies. "From control." She meets his gaze. If discipline requires silence, then it was never stable to begin with. A murmur ripples through the nearby guests. She continues, steady now. "The company has not lost focus since I arrived. If anything, it has gained clarity. People respond to leadership that feels human. Predictable does not mean powerful. It means fragile." The board member studies her, reassessing. Later, as applause rises for a speech she barely hears, she feels his presence beside her again. He does not speak immediately. He simply stands there, closer than usual. "You handled that well," he says quietly. "They wanted to see if I would fold," she replies. "And you did not." She turns to him. "Was that the test?" "One of them," he admits. They step away from the crowd and onto a balcony overlooking the city. The noise fades into distance. Wind brushes past them, cool and grounding. "You did not intervene," she says. "You did not need me to," he answers. Something settles between them then. Not tension, trust. She exhales. "I was afraid." "So was I," he says. She looks at him in surprise. "I built this company on certainty," he continues. "Tonight, you reminded them that strength does not always announce itself. Sometimes it stands quietly and refuses to move." She studies his face, seeing him not as a role, not as a CEO, but as a man who has spent too long carrying everything alone. For a moment, neither of them speaks. Then she steps back, re-establishing distance. The rules still matter, the contract still exists, but the way he looks at her now has changed. Not ownership, not control, recognition. When they return to the ballroom, hands brushing briefly as they walk side by side, the room senses it too. The test is over, and she has passed. The fracture comes quietly, the way real damage often does. It begins with a headline she was never meant to read. She sees it on a screen she should not have been near, scrolling past financial news while waiting for a driver. The words blur at first, then sharpen into something unmistakable. A source close to the board suggests the marriage may be contractual. Her chest tightens. She keeps reading, heart pounding as familiar phrases appear. Public strategy, image control, mutually beneficial arrangement. None of it is confirmed. None of it is denied. And then she sees the line that breaks her. According to insiders, the CEO never intended the relationship to be real. She closes the screen and steps back as if burned. Later that evening, she overhears the conversation that confirms her worst fear. The door to his study is not fully closed. She had not meant to listen. She had only paused, caught by the sound of her name spoken without warning. She was effective, he says calmly. Yes, the arrangement served its purpose. Another voice replies, sharp with curiosity. And now? There is risk, he answers. If the narrative shifts, I will end it. End it. She steps away before she can hear more. That night, she does not knock on his door. She does not ask for explanations. She packs quietly, folding borrowed clothes with deliberate care, leaving the ring on the dresser where it first rested like a prop. In the morning, she leaves before the house wakes. When he realizes she is gone, it is already too late. He finds the ring, the empty room, a single note on the desk, written carefully, without accusation. I agreed to represent a role. I did not agree to be erased by it. He reads it twice. The media senses the shift immediately. Cameras appear. Questions multiply. Where is your wife? Are the rumors true? This time, he does not answer fast enough. She returns to her old life, smaller spaces, familiar routines, the quiet dignity of anonymity. Friends ask what happened. She smiles and says it was temporary. Inside, something hardens. She refuses interviews, declines offers that feel like pity. She does not expose him. She simply disappears from his world. Days pass, then weeks. He tries to reach her. Messages remain unanswered. Calls go to silence. For the first time, control slips through his fingers. The board presses harder now. They want distance. They want damage control. They want him to let her go publicly and cleanly. And for the first time, he does not comply. At night, alone in a house that no longer feels ordered, he replays every moment. Every time she stood her ground. Every time she chose dignity over ease. Every time she protected him without being asked. He realizes the truth too late. She was never the distraction. She was the line that held. Across town, she stands on a bridge overlooking the city, lights reflected in dark water below. She breathes in cold air and steadies herself. She chose herself. Whatever comes next, it will be real. And somewhere between regret and resolve, he begins to understand that losing her may cost more than any scandal ever could. The decision does not come in a boardroom. It comes in silence. He stands alone in his office long after the city outside has gone dark, the contract spread open on his desk. The signatures stare back at him, precise and cold. Ink that once felt like control now feels like a cage. He reaches for his phone again. No response. For the first time in years, he does nothing. No calls, no strategy, no crisis management. He remembers the way she left. Quiet, clean, no accusations, just dignity. That is what breaks him. The next morning, he makes a choice that shocks everyone who works for him. He cancels meetings, declines interviews, refuses a carefully prepared press statement meant to distance himself from the rumors. When the board demands reassurance, he gives them none. Instead, he walks into the legal department and places the contract on the table. "This is over," he says, effective immediately. The attorney hesitates. "Sir, the fallout—" "I will handle it," he replies, publicly. News spreads fast when power stops hiding. By evening, speculation explodes. Reporters gather, cameras wait. Everyone expects damage control. What they get is truth. He steps onto the stage alone, without prepared notes, without the armor of rehearsed certainty. The room quiets. "My marriage was questioned," he begins calmly. "Not because it failed, but because it was misunderstood." He pauses, allowing the weight of the moment to settle. "She was never a strategy," he continues. "She was never temporary, and she was never something I controlled." Murmurs ripple through the crowd. "I asked her to stand beside me when I needed stability," he says, "and she gave me integrity instead." He looks directly at the cameras. "If there was a contract, it was mine alone. And today, I take full responsibility for it." Across the city, she hears about it by accident. A television plays in the background of a small cafe while she waits for her coffee. She is not watching. Not until she hears his voice. She freezes. He does not excuse himself. He does not hide behind legal language. He does not protect his image at her expense. "She deserved honesty," he says, "and I failed to give it in time." The cafe is silent now. Strangers glance at her without knowing why her hands tremble. Later that night, there is a knock at her door. She opens it slowly, already braced for disappointment. It is him. No entourage, no cameras, no suit. Just a man who looks like he has finally put something down. "I am not here to explain," he says quietly. "I am here to choose." She does not move aside. "I ended the contract," he continues. "Publicly. Completely. There is nothing left for you to protect me from." She searches his face for calculation, finds none. "And if I walk away again?" she asks. "Then you will walk away knowing I did not use you," he replies, "and that I did not hide." Silence stretches between them. Finally, she steps back. He does not touch her, does not rush. He stands where she can see him clearly. "For the first time," he says, "I am not asking you to play a role." She exhales, the sound shaky but real. This time, there is no contract, no performance, just a choice made in the open. And whatever happens next, it will be real. The city gathers again, but this time the air feels different. There are no rumors buzzing ahead of the event, no whispered questions, just expectation. She stands backstage, fingers lightly touching the edge of a simple dress she chose herself. No borrowed jewelry, no armor, no contract folded into a folder somewhere nearby. Only choice. He waits a few steps away, giving her space, the way he has learned to do. When he looks at her now, there is no calculation left in his eyes, only certainty. "Are you ready?" he asks. She considers the question, then nods. "I am." They walk out together. The room quiets almost immediately. People recognize the moment. They always do when something real replaces performance. Cameras lift, but no one shouts questions. They sense it would break the spell. He takes the microphone, steady but unguarded. "There was a time," he begins, "when I believed leadership meant control. When I believed strength came from never letting anyone see the truth." He pauses, then continues. "I was wrong." The words land gently but firmly. "I once confirmed a marriage in public without understanding what commitment truly meant," he says. "Tonight, I want to correct that moment." He turns toward her. "Before, I spoke for both of us," he says. "This time, I speak only for myself." The room holds its breath. "I choose her," he says clearly. "Not as an image, not as a strategy, not as protection. I choose her because she stood where I could not, because she walked away when it mattered, and because she returned without conditions." He lowers the microphone and takes her hand, not possessive, not performative, just present. She steps forward. "I did not come back to be someone's wife," she says, voice steady. "I came back because I was asked honestly, because I was respected enough to choose." She looks at him, then back at the room. "And because love, when it is real, does not need a contract to survive." Silence stretches, then applause rises. Not loud at first, but deep, earned. Later, away from the lights, they walk through the city as ordinary people. No security, no schedule. Just two lives aligning without pressure. "Do you regret it?" she asks quietly. "Everything before now," he answers. "Yes." "And now?" "Now," he says, "I am exactly where I should be." Months later, there are no headlines announcing a wedding, no spectacle, just a small gathering of people who know the difference between status and substance. When he slips a ring onto her finger, it is not borrowed, it is not symbolic, it is chosen. She smiles, not because the world is watching, but because it no longer needs to. What began as a mistake ends as a decision, not confirmed by cameras, but lived quietly every day after.